everybody, welcome to the Nerd Psycho Comic Flick Show here on the Nerd Cyclopedia channel. Welcome to our wonderful video podcast where it's so good we're saying it twice. Oh boy. You are in for a treat tonight on this show, and I'm going to tell you exactly why, because this is going to be a two-man operation, and it's pretty rare that we're
going back to basics here, man. I mean, What did it start out with? Huh?
It's pretty rare that we get to bust out the old nerds talk about the boys retro episode. So we'll do that.
Yeah, buddy.
We'll do that for you today. So Nerd Psycho Comic Flick Show. This is the episode 4, The Boys Season 3, Episode 4, Glorious 5-Year Plan. Welcome everybody. I am Steel City Hitch, and I am joined by my partner, the ever fabulous DP Brown. DP.
What's up?
How you doing today? And before we get started, it is usually customary for one of us, him, to give us a rundown of all the info about Nerd Cyclopedia. Why don't you do that for us real quick?
NerdCyclopedia.com. People, make sure that you're going on to our website, making sure that you are listening to that you first of all, getting on your social media platforms and hitting us up on social media at Nerd Cyclopedia. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and also on Instagram. If you are watching us right here on YouTube, make sure that you are hitting that subscribe button and also that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you. Make sure that you go to our Facebook group and subscribe now, and also join our Facebook group. We are also doing Carmen Bounty BS, where we got like a Star Wars podcast as well. You know, please promote the CBBS, because that's what we're doing. We do Obi-Wan every week. We do Star Wars content every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Also, make sure that, you know, if you're listening to our podcast on your smartphone or on your computer, you are going to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. And also make sure that you leave us some feedback. Nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com. We love getting your feedback, comment, and also giving you feedback on what we talk about.
All right, that was pretty good. No complaints this week. So moving right into the plot here. So The Boys Season 3, I've talked about this show as alternating between body horror and psychological horror, and not having like a there not being a really it can go either way at any time, right? So you can get maximum gore and maximum messed upness all at the same time. One of the really cool things about this show, this episode delivered the fucked upness all over the place, and it's the place. And we're going blue style because this is The Boys, and listen, if you're talking to me about The Boys, I know you can stand me to say the word fuck one time, and that's and that's because I know you watch this show. But yeah, so this episode really showed the depths that people will go to stay in power, and I think that we really watched A-Train try a very, 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 very little bit to do the right thing for 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds, I mean, the thought crossed his mind, but no, he had to just be A-Train, an a-hole at the end of the day.
A-Train is incapable of doing the right thing. Even when he says the right things, he's incapable of saying them, for the right reasons. And we get this perfect distillation of his psyche in this commercial that he does with his energy drink, where the protesters and the cops are gonna fight, and he kind of jumps in the middle and gives them both the energy drink, and it's peaceful, and it's this empty, hollow, corporate, it's like a clanging gong, like they say in the 2 Corinthians. You know what I'm saying? It's just emptiness. There's no real anything behind it. What did you think about that? What were your thoughts about that commercial that we saw for A-Train's energy drink? And what do you think about A-Train?
So apparently they and this is crazy how real life comes into this. So apparently they based it off, I believe, in you can hashtag hate DP if you want. I think Kylie Jenner, one of the Kardashians or whatever,
it was a Pepsi commercial.
Yeah,
for Pepsi.
Yep. did a similar commercial years ago, or right around the pandemic when that first started or whatever, and tried to bring a unite thing all together, and it came off real cheesy, real what is the word I want to use? Real disingenuous, to a degree.
Unctuous.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, there you go.
Fake. Yeah. Just fake and terrible.
It's showing you, and this is their take on that same incident and everything. Social media, ragged on her, critics and everything just looked at it and it was like, okay, well, this is celebrities, just doing their celebrity thing just to try to hawk something and everything. Corporation just trying to hawk a product in the name of peace, in the name of trying to unite, and in the name of just being like disingenuous about the whole thing. You don't really know like the intentions of her per se, but people feel that so that they feel that corporations shouldn't really to use like a pride thing or a Juneteenth thing or a thing of social issues to hawk a product, to sell a product and everything. It makes the whole thing seem like commercial and stuff. I thought about it, and it was a pretty funny. It was a pretty funny commercial, and I didn't really know that happened until afterwards. That that it was based on like a real incident and everything. But A-Train, on the other hand, just talking to he said, I thought about it. So I want to expound on that a little bit. Yeah. So I'm thinking about, okay, is it better that they do this, or is it better that they do, if they're going to do it, I would rather they do it like this than rather peddle like rather if they peddle something wrong, I'm saying, something like a racist type of thing, or like something that you can consider sort of like just really controversial or whatever, just to hawk a product and everything. And I guess to a degree you could look at past decades and stuff. They've been like selling products and stuff to certain aspects of people, to a majority, in order to get like the most money out of it and everything, right? So in this aspect, in this days and time that we're living in, you got companies trying to cater to the most the most social issue up to this point and everything, the social favorite issue right now. We got like a comment from what was her name in the publicist in the on the show,
Ashley.
Okay, we got like I'm down for like Black Lives Matter. I got like black screens on Insta. That was one of my favorite lines of the show. I got my Insta is full of black screens and everything.
It's so great because what this tells you is, if racism sold, they'd be racist. That's what it tells you. Is what sells is wokeness or tolerance or inclusion or whatever you want to call it. And if you're not actually working toward those goals, but you use them to sell a product, it tells me that if you could, if you could market something that had, and we just went through this a couple years ago with the elimination of brands that I know I'm familiar with that have black mascots that did not enrich black people, right? So like Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima, right?
Aunt Jemima, yep.
So, we know that corporations have done this in the past. There was a really great, there's a satirical movie that's about what if the Confederate States existed and what ads would look like in that country. And they're all extremely, extremely obviously they're very racist on purpose, because they're proving a point that is these minor racisms are just as bad, right? If you don't notice them and confront them.
Right.
So it's a satire. I'm not saying that there should be racist ads or anything.
I mean,
like
that's
that,
so like what you call microaggressions and everything, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So, if we're going through this now in June, and June's turned into a month where there are a lot of, there's a lot of intersectionality appreciation that happens in June now because of the new Juneteenth holiday, which is I think the second one and the third one in 2022. The first one I'll be getting off and paid for, I know, from my employer, which is real cool, right? Awesome. Mm-hmm. But you can do that wrong.
We got Pride Month going on too, right?
Pride Month too. So you can do that wrong too. So if you're just trying to sell me a chicken sandwich with a rainbow wrapper and you're not actually and you're actually trying to harm queer people that don't want to do business with you. But it makes me think that if you thought it would be, great business to, to be a homophobe, you'd do it.
Yeah.
And that's what VOD is. VOD is just this completely immoral, awful, heinous, money-grubbing corporation. The product they make is just gods.
No, I mean, if you want to think about it like that, think about it like like the old Joker line in like, the Dark Knight, a dog chasing, the Joker, puts himself as like a dog chasing a car. He said, once he catches it, he doesn't really know what to do with it. So if you really think about like a dog just chasing a car, what is a dog really going to do with that car? So you got these money grubbing corporations chasing money. And it doesn't matter what the money looks like, just so long as they're chasing it and trying to get it. They don't really know what to do with it. Well, I guess they know what to do with it, but they're chasing. The point is that they're chasing something. It doesn't matter what color the car is. It doesn't matter what shape the car is. It matters that they're just chasing it, just like that dog.
I think there's this great quote here that I'm going to put up here, and I'm going to tell the story before I put it up. There's a Roman emperor named Vespasian, and he was having monetary troubles. He wanted to fund the expansion of the empire like every emperor does. And so he took it upon himself to start charging people money to use public latrines. And his son was like, "Dad, what the F? You can't do that. It's gross." And he said, "Money doesn't stink."
Unless you put it on your ass.
Right. So strippers don't count here. That money can stay. So basically, what we're saying is, making money by any means necessary. It's a totally capitalist thing. And I think that's what makes VOD such an interesting microcosm for the American economy, because if you don't do capitalism appropriately, it's very exploitive and it can be very bad. Yeah. And, it's interesting how we are sort of confronting, that legacy of American capitalism and expansionism now in our time. And we're seeing the same confrontation brewing in the boys universe, which is interesting because, we have just like every season of the boys, the macrocosm Olympus fight going on and the microcosm boys fight. And that's two different things happening in two different places, and they're all intertwined. And I want to talk, we talk a little bit about A-Train and his African style makeover for his outfit. He doesn't run anymore. Right. So A-Train is, at the end of this, all talk, no show. Right. All talk, no show. So, and he's completely subsumed his will to Homelanders.
Yeah, he sold Starlight and Supersonic out, which I was really disappointed in the end. But I mean, you sort of could tell it was going to happen based on how willing, how easy it was, how minimal he was to, like, what Supersonic was saying. And speaking of Supersonic, okay, you just got on the 7, right? You just got into the group. You don't know any of these people. The only person you can really trust is Starlight because you did have a past with her and everything. Don't you think before you actually hatch a plan to take over the most powerful man in the world, you at least try to get to know, some of the other members to see who you can actually trust in the group? Before okay, you're on this elevator and all of a sudden you're just spilling all the beans, to A-Train. A-Train is like, okay.
All right. So if we're looking at the Olympic story here as being an allegory, and Homelander is the obviously the symbol for white nationalism. Obviously, I mean, it's explicit. He's not pretending that he's not just a master race. He is the race. He's Homelander. He's the race. He's in charge. He's the real hero here, and you have to understand that. And so the Hispanic guy goes to the black guy, figuring that guy's going to be against the white patriarchy just by default. Right. And yet, because we know A-Train is all about the money and all about the profit, we know at the first chance he will turn in somebody he should have solidarity with. Just to get points with Homelander. And that is not, it's something that I believe there are historical parallels to that we are familiar with. Is that not true, DP?
We are the 7, first of all, have so many insecurities, except for maybe Starlight. At least she has a heart. Everyone else has their own insecurities that, you know, they cater to. Homelander has a biggest insecurity, but they all cater to Homelander to a degree. Want to be in there, you know, in his good graces. You know how powerful he is, but you know, A-Train on the you know, one hand doesn't have this power, you know, or can't really use his power, but he still wants to be a part of this big team. Technically, he should be off of it. You know,
think about it. What they have done with the Seven, this is the same thing that happened. It's one of the reasons I've seen cited by historians for why the German army in World War II underperformed compared to the German army in World War I. And it's because at a certain point, if you begin to choose for loyalty, you cannot choose for the loyalty and skill at the same time. You can only prioritize one or the other. And if you're saying you're the best, you know, for this job, and you're picking somebody else because you'd rather, you know, somebody you can quote trust, then you're going to get a worse result. So the real question here is, how does having, you know, the Deep and how does having A-Train on this team turn around to bite Homelander later? Because that's what should happen here.
Right.
That's what I'm interested in seeing, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be kind of deep, you know, everything. You know, how if and when they eventually turn, how do they actually, or so none of these, you know, none of the suits except for Starlight, you know, to a degree, and Maeve, of course, you know, are seeing like the real ramification of what Homelander can actually do. The Deep, A-Train, Black Noir, who we don't really get like a good, you know, context with, and
it's hard to tell what's going on with Black Noir.
What's going on with that guy?
We get so many weird, conflicting things with Black Noir. You know, I love the flashback scene showing how Black Noir got all scarred and messed up, and I love how, you know, they've alternately portrayed Black Noir as being like almost childlike, you know, and I think that
and everything,
yeah, just like, you know, kind of out of it, just does whatever, you know, he's not really involved. You know, he'll do the killing and he'll do it great, but he's not, you know, on a day-to-day basis.
He doesn't really get that deep. But we don't really get
the politics he doesn't care about.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we don't really get any perspective from, like, you know, a three-dimensional perspective of what they actually feel about Homelander per se. More or less with A-Train and Deep, especially, we get more or less how they feel about themselves. You know, how how they can further themselves. You know, the Deep on one hand, you know, he's trying to figure himself out, you know, but he's not concentrating on any other member or whatever. You know, we only have Maeve and Starlight to do that type of thing. We're seeing them, you know, hatch a plan to, you know, take down or try to do their best to like take down Homelander and stuff. But you know, the dynamics of the Seven are just strange. You know, is it what started out as like a parody of the Justice League is really deep. I keep saying the word deep. It's really funny. Interesting how what the real life what the real dynamics of how things will really happen if, you know, if you got like this Superman, this Wonder Woman, you know, type character, this Flash type character, how they would actually act in a real world type of situation, being backed by, you know, by a big corporation like Vought. You know, Vought is like the end all be all as far as anything that you could think that's bad that a corporate entity can do, Vought does. You know, in this world, it is just slick how they do it. They control like your phones, they control like the media. It's impressive on how, you know, Vought not only feeds you the lines, hooks, line, and sinker with like the Coleman guy. I forgot his first name or whatever. But they also control the scripts that he that he talks about. I mean, it's like it's crazy.
Vought, because their product was Captain America, you know, like that's what their product was for so long. You know, it's like all these people just assume they're superheroes or heroes, because why wouldn't they? They've been told by Vought for years and years.
For so long, yeah.
Oh man, and Homelander murdering Supersonic here is so gruesome and so, you know, it's the type of thing Stalin would have done. It's a very Stalin-esque. He's turning into that sort of guy, and it makes you really appreciate like Superman. Superman doesn't try to do this crap. You know, he doesn't want to be, you know, he doesn't care about the adulation. It's there. He doesn't care about it. And you really appreciate that Superman has a fortress of solitude. Like Homelander's Fortress of Solitude is a skyscraper in the middle of the biggest city in the world. It's just he's everybody can see him coming and going. Everybody's eyes are on him all the time.
And whenever he likes to relieve himself and everything, he takes like, he jacks off in the middle of the night and everything. If you could see Homelander, he's all in his full glory and everything. So Homelander, is at this point, he doesn't care. He takes out Supersonic because of whatever A-Train, told him about, the plan and everything. And because Homelander is Homelander, he uses this to threaten Starlight, with Huey. If anything if you try this again, make sure that Starlight knows, because he can't get rid of Starlight at this point, but he wants her to know that if she ever tries anything like this again, this is what will happen to Huey. It's a shame that Supersonic even had to go down like that, but granted, like I said, it's his own fault. He shouldn't have tried to befriend, a 7 member so quickly when he didn't even know him.
He was warned.
He was warned.
And Homelander is here. It's so crazy. Anytime you have someone that's this overpowered, the commentary here is this is what happens when a power imbalance exists. The worse the imbalance, the worse the abuse. And Homelander is so far beyond everybody that, like he says, I could take out the entirety of your defensive network now and do whatever the hell I want. Your infrastructure, you'd never be able to stop me. So, but it seems like Homelander may be cruising for a bruise, and at least that's what the insinuation here is, because of the story in Russia, which is really well put together and taught. And we get a lot of character depth because we see the reaction of these characters to everybody trying out V24. Yeah. I really think this is such an excellent plot twist here, and maybe not plot twist, but plot feature here, where you have Butcher and Huey both trying the V24 and sort of feeling differently about what it's like to be, super powered. Like Butcher's throwing up everywhere and having a terrible time, and Huey's like exuberant and.
Well, I think one thing we're getting here. So we had the boys as like the protagonists, protagonists, and the Supes is like the antagonists. When it's in reality, it's sort of more or less supposed to be like the reverse and everything. The heroes are supposed to be, heroes and everything, but the boys are our protagonists. So we supposed to look at them as like upholding like the standards. Okay, they're not supposed to be Supes. They're supposed to be going against the Supes. So to have Butcher, take this V24, or this temporary V, again, in this episode, and we sort of get him looking as if he's being addicted to it. We get like the shots of him, wrapping his arm and everything, and taking the drug and all that stuff. And then we get Huey coming on the back end, being revealed that he took some too. Reveals his own insecurities about him trying to, save like Starlight, him being feeling more inferior to like, these Supes, and to his position in the boys and everything. Because how does, Billy Butcher make him feel every time he comes in? You're this, Huey and everything. So of course, Huey's gonna come, try to take the V, and I don't know how he ended up getting it from Billy Butcher, but the fact that he ended up taking it says a lot about him, to the other members of the team, and it actually puts into odds what the principles of what we thought the boys were versus the ones who actually took the V24. So. We're getting this big dynamic we're getting this split dynamic between the members of the members of our crew, the boys.
Yeah, and I think that part of it is the genesis of they're all being pulled in their own directions. Huey and Butcher are being pulled apart by their reactions to V24, and Frenchie Kimiko are pulling themselves apart from the group because she's sick and tired of being used like a weapon, the same way Homelander. In the same way Homelander is sick and tired of being pointed and told what to do. Yeah. I'm a human being. I have agency. I don't want to have to kill, 50 dudes with dildos, the 7 themed dildos, which is a hilarious bit and reveal that just really great. The Homelander themed dildo. I mean, they're just really funny. And we see a lot of just chaotic murder, dildo related murder that takes place, and it's great.
The good thing about this show is that when they don't get super deep into the politics, but the politics around all the things, of everything that happens in the show. But what they do so brilliantly is that they counteract it with like the absurdity of like, the blood splatter, the dildos and stuff and everything. They cut it in with like the comedic bits, and like this is just totally ridiculous. Have like a dildo line. Was it made from Vought, or I think that was made from Vought.
It was Vaught's because Ashley had one later when
yes,
she...
okay, all right. So Vought is making dildos of the whole line of the whole 7. Are you serious? So
I mean, listen, this is merchandising. It is what it is.
So not only do they make toys,
they make toys.
They make adult toys too.
I, for one, like
of the same
I like it when my capitalism is presented to me uncut, unfiltered, not stepped on, just right in the vein. Man, that's something else.
Pure unadulterated capitalism, at its finest.
So funny, funny that everybody has a theme, everybody has one. They each get their own introduction. I love these scenes in Russia. I think this is the real strength of this episode is maybe what's going on in Russia, and hey, we got to kill this oligarch. Hey, we have a murderous hamster, Julian, right? He says his name, Julian, the soup hamster, causing havoc. I really, I really enjoyed all that stuff. All the random eye terror. Like I said, this show knows how to turn the body horror on whenever it wants. And this week it was the eyes. People's eyes were getting fucked up this week on The Boys. If you have 2 eyes now,
you will not have them by the end of the show.
You might not have them by the end of the show.
You're a bad guy.
I will officially say this. I will put a warning. Do not watch this episode of The Boys if you only have one functioning eye. It could be a gateway to blindness. There's a hamster going in the eye, eyes going into the dildos. Everybody, I mean, it's crazy stuff that's happening this week, and I'm here for it.
So Homelander talks about, he talks to Ashley about what was the line? I mean, I know you had to remember.
Is your brain getting fucked by stupid? And
then she repeats the same thing to Coleman. A couple scenes later, but Homie, we sort of look at him as like, okay, he's like the front man to, a lot of the scripting things that, Vought wants him to say, for that particular channel. But we find out that he likes, like, he has like he has a thing going on with Ashley and everything. So, he likes to be talked like that to her, towards by her.
I feel like this stuff here with Homelander acting like Homelander sort of seizing the means of production, right? Because Homelander is the product, and he's the one whose labor by like going and saving these people literally creates the value for Vought. That's what it is. So Homelander is sort of, rising up and saying and applying a Marxist thought, which is that I should own the value that my labor creates. All right. But doing so in a very objectivist way. So doing so in a very right-wing way. So are you familiar with Ayn Rand by any chance, DP? Do you know? Okay. So objectivism is this idea that selfishness is good because it generates economic productivity, which helps everybody flourish. That's the idea. So the more you push the more you sell, the more you create, the better you are. Now, objectivism also says that what will happen is the people who have these ideas, who really create the value, have that value stolen from them by other people.
Right.
And so what the main plot of Atlas Shrugged, which is her biggest book, is these people who create the value, who like invent the new product. Like Steve Jobs would go disappear, just quit. Not going to work no more because he's not getting paid right.
Right.
So, I almost think that's where they're going is this. It's interesting that, objectivism applies a Marxist ideology to a white collar role, right? Okay. So my value is being exploited by society because I'm not getting paid what I'm owed, right? This is what Homelander is essentially saying. So it's a lot like how That happened in Atlas Shrugged. The Fountainhead is another one of her books where essentially this architect wants to draw whatever buildings they want and they can't because the society won't let them because they need specific types of buildings or whatever. I'm not a big fan of Ayn Rand, but what I'm saying is this is an interesting exploration of those philosophical ideas because you cannot deny that what Homelander is doing is he is the product. He's the product. His powers, his abilities, who he is as the person is the product. He is the hero. He is the one that can do these things. And so
it's a funny thing that you talk about, him as a product. So if he's thinking about this, how does Stan, refer to him? He refers to him as like you're nothing but a bad product. Still a product, but a bad product. It's almost like, Homelander, if you're going on to that objectivism type thing, that he's thinking sort of small. He's sort of tying him, as powerful as Homelander is, he already stated, okay, I would take out infrastructure. I would, do this, do that, take over the world, So why is he like holding himself to the vault? Why is he holding himself to something as small as, this corporation? It sort of speaks to his own, like, small sense of, security, still thinking of himself like, I'm still a product. I know I'm a valuable product and everything, but yet and still I'm just a product. And Stan, like, sort of reaffirms that you're nothing but a bad product at that, when we see Homelander as, okay, you could be so much else. And what we see with the other characters from like Maeve, Starlight, Billy Butcher and everything, you're this potential danger where if things got out of hand, we could not control you. So we got to take you down. Homelander does not see himself as that as of yet. He has inklings of it, but he's still seeing himself as his product.
And think about Homelander. And again, I feel like the Boys' allegory is is obvious here too. Think about what is a being that would have superpowers that once unleashed you could not control, and if you created them, you could own them, but maybe they would declare ownership of their self, and that would be an artificial being, artificial intelligence. So if you were to create an artificial intelligence that was so strong that you couldn't stop it once you turned it on, it could act like this. This is the fear that we have with artificial intelligences. It's what drives things, subgenres like cyberpunk, things like the Matrix, for instance. Artificial intelligence run amok, right? So Homelander isn't a computer, but he is an intelligence, and he wasn't born. He was created in a lab. So he's artificial.
Yeah. And and he's that gun that Vault continues to use, to aim here, aim there, and everything. Okay, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. Homelander's tired of being that, that particular, brand of the product and everything. And it's real crazy how this thing is being, we see it in the Boys with, like you said, Kamiko. We see it in, Billy Butcher is becoming like, a product in a way with taking like the V24, he's turning into what he hates the most, just to prove a point. And at the end of the day, it's almost like you're trying to understand, okay, well, what exactly are we fighting for? Or is everyone fighting for if they're turning into soups as well? Are they wanting to take down Homelander, or they just want to be soups and stuff? Huey, we see at the end, he's sort of like glad he has like, this power. So he's not really even worried about Kamiko in the back there, getting, injured and stuff. He has power, running through his veins and everything. So it's this amazement that's going on with this need that people have, this drug that people have, the quest for power that we're seeing with, it's like a running theme throughout this whole thing. With Homelander, we see with Huey, we see it with, Billy Butcher, we're seeing like these things just running. Stan has been depowered, Ashley has been promoted, so she has now more power.
I think, and that's seen with, with Victoria sort of backstabbing him because Homelander is threatening her. I mean, it's so, it's so terrifying. And Homelander, and again, the intelligence, he has all the information. He knows everything you're doing. He can hear everything you're doing. He can see everything you're doing. Again, run amok. This product, this idea has run amok. It's in charge, and it's in charge of itself, and we'll see what you can do without me pointing you in the right directions. Basically, what Stan tells him, you're nothing. You're like, and imagine the leverage. And this is what I was just thinking. Imagine the leverage that a company like Apple could have if it did something like, and hear me out on this. It said, you know what? Pick a state, DP, any state you want.
Let's pick Idaho.
You know what, Idaho? Fuck you. No iPhones work in Idaho as of now, and that's just going to be how it is.
That is crazy.
What could they do, right? I mean, obviously the laws are structured in a certain way. They don't.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes sense.
You have other companies that offer phones and stuff, but I get your point.
But Apple needs money.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Apple has needs. Needs. It can be reasoned with. It can be bought. You can buy Apple off. You can tell them, hey, we'll use your products. You can see all our stuff. Just don't be evil. You can do that stuff. But Homelander's product is just to get the adulation. It's just a return for the adulation. He doesn't care about, there's no good that he's doing for society anymore.
Right.
And he just wants the worship.
He wants to worship. He's a product and everything. And this is what, so he can't totally get rid of Vault or whatever. This is the thing that's fulfilling his needs as far as him feeling adulated, him feeling good about himself. He can't control cameras and stuff, and he can why would he really want to destroy infrastructure? That hurts him. He can make threats and everything all day and stuff, but no, I mean, you think a long term, and Homelander is super, and he's smart. He may not be a macro thinker, but he thinks real smart. To do any of the things that he threatened to do would not be beneficial towards him.
That's true. That's the thing, right? It's the same problem everybody has. Once you pull the trigger, you've pulled the trigger, and that's the problem with making a threat. You just have to do the thing you're threatened anyway, without because there's no point in telling people you're going to do it.
In movies, TV shows, a lot of other, maybe just in life period and everything. They if you have the gun, there's no purpose in having a gun unless you think that you're going to shoot it. Well, I'm saying once you point the gun, I should say, you're either going to do it or you're not. And if you're going to point the gun, you better be ready to shoot it. I've heard that so many times as a trope in TV shows. And movies and stuff that it's almost like ad nauseum. But yes, you're right. If you're going to make a threat, you better be ready to follow through on that threat. Or else it's just like, okay, something could be something could take over you. And you ultimately fail in everything. So if you've got balls enough to hold that gun and point it at somebody, you better be ready to shoot it.
And Homelander shows us he's ready to shoot. He tells Starlight all that stuff, and then he does what he does is supersonic. So, you definitely want to take it seriously.
Oh, yeah.
I think Homelander's motivations are so interesting because it feels all the things he's after feel very petty.
That's what I'm saying. He's small. I mean, he thinks more micro than he's not a big macro thinker. Or did I contradict myself earlier? He doesn't think he's smart, but he thinks in a micro terms.
He's tactically smart.
Right.
He's not strategically smart. There's a big difference between those two things.
Yes. And I think the thing that hampers him is his own self. I mean, okay. So you got all these hearings and everything going on with the January 6th stuff. And I'm reading articles that, Trump told people to do this. Trump told people to do that. People kept telling him that, okay, this can't be done. This can't be done. There's no sense in, talk about election fraud. It's not going to happen. That's not a thing. Yet and still he keeps on doing it and stuff, So everyone is telling him one thing, but he keeps on doing the exact opposite, of that. So we see Homelander, everybody tells him, things that he cannot do, but yet and still that, Homelander, feels a certain type of way about himself.
His self-pride and self-loathing are so intertwined.
Right.
He feels like everybody's as worthless as he is, but only he has any value.
Right.
It's interesting when you cut yourself down to, survival of the fittest, or it's almost like, live by the sword, us versus them, and then live by the sword, die by the sword. Right. Mm-hmm. If all you value is strength, eventually you won't be the strongest one. That's what Ryan's all about. Ryan's getting stronger and stronger, you know. And I think what's interesting is we find Homelander here almost at the apex. I mean, I don't know where else there is for Homelander to go except to have the complete supplication and control over all of the people in Vought. He's got, you know, he's got the boys on the ropes. I mean, they're breaking up. They're fighting each other over this, you know, this Compound V. There's only one thing that seems to be going against him, and that is Soldier Boy's bizarre transformation into Rogue from X-Men, I guess, where Soldier Boy can now absorb the powers of the people he encounters. So who knows what's up with what the deal is there. I'm interested to see exactly what is happening.
Either do that or depower,
right? One way or the other.
You know, so he's going to end up being used as a gun. So another theme that just keeps running, you know, back and forth. You know, these suits, you know, being used as guns. You know, maybe Soldier Boy is going to be used in a certain way to try to take out Homelander. You know, before he gets like too powerful or what have you. You know, I think what I was really trying to say as far as like the whole like, you know, correlation with January 6th was, you know, you had Trump trying to do something. Was it more for himself or was it more for the people of, you know, who his followers, his worshipers and all that stuff? And I think you get the same, you know, thing with Homelander here. Is he doing things more for himself? We see, you know, Homelander in the show doing a lot of things more for himself. He's not doing things for, you know, the people per se. You know, we get Homelander in a state where, you know, that's all he's thinking about is, you know, himself, you know, and how he could further his own agenda, you know, to a degree where he doesn't really know where, I guess tactically, like you said, you know, he's very good at that in a micro sense, but in a macro sense, you know, he doesn't really know where it ends. We don't know where it really ends. You know, Homelander hasn't stated what his end game is because I don't think he really knows. He's just going based on how he feels and how much he can get away with. How much can he push the envelope to a point where, okay, overall chaos is just happening.
Yeah. I think some of this was explored in Superman Red Son when Lex Luthor, who's the president of the United States fighting the evil communist Superman, screams at him, "Why don't you just put us all in a bottle?" Because, you know, at a certain point, if you're not allowing people free will, what's the point? You know, what's the point? So what is Homelander going to do? And Homelander's walking down the path of complete, you know, subjugation of the human race, Age of Apocalypse style. Yeah. He's going to have, if he doesn't quit it, he's going to end up with a lair in the shape of his body.
Right.
Which is a sure sign that you are fucking evil. If your house is shaped like you're evil.
And is that something that he's going to be satisfied with in the end? You know,
would he be happy with it?
You know,
because what's the deal? Like, you go in and you murder 30 million people, and at the end of the day, you're miserable.
Well, I mean, you know, yeah, that's 30 million people you don't have to worship you, you know. So so he has had people there at some point to be willing to worship him. You know, I don't know if he really gets off people fearing him just to fear. You know, I think he gets off of that you know, what Ashley said about a few episodes ago about his numbers going up, you know, and him getting off that. You know, he didn't willingly tell people to do that. You know, he just was himself and people started following him. He gets off on that. So how is it benefiting him to threaten, you know, mankind to worship him? It doesn't do anything for him because they're not doing it willingly.
It's free will's a bitch, man. You know, it is what it is. And I think, you know, I had a conversation with a friend, and it was like, you know, something along the lines of, you know, the worst thing about realizing you have free will is realizing you have to let everyone else have it too. That's the worst thing, because if nobody has it, nobody has it.
You're saying something deep there. It's like this whole freedom of speech thing that's going on and stuff. Okay. Everybody wants to have everybody thinks that, okay, I should have the freedom to say anything I want. You know, I have a platform. Everybody has a platform with like social media, Twitter,
like a podcast or some shit.
Yeah. So exactly, we have a platform. Yes, we are speaking our minds on here. So everyone has a platform and wants to claim this is freedom of speech and everything. So you can't cancel me. If I should be able to say something, and not be held against and be held against me, I shouldn't have my job taken away from me.
But that's a different thing. That you're talking about the lack of consequences for speech that you have that can be outside the bounds of what is acceptable by society. That's not the same thing as a maxim stating that you should be allowed to hold personal tenets of your own, right? Like if I come out and say something,
an element of that,
but there's not impunity. Like you can't just say anything you want. Like for instance, let's say you can't go up to a bunch of, you can't go up to a bunch of World War II veterans and tell them you think D-Day was a hoax, right? Which would be something that would piss them off real good, and assume that they're not going to get angry, because you have to allow them the space. You have to respect free will as a thing enough to say that if you have it, they have it. So you have to give them the right to have their own reaction.
That's the thing I'm advocating here. There's a lot of people out there that think you can. So I can go up to those same veterans, and while you're saying, okay, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. You can't be that disrespectful. That's being totally rude. But why not? People are saying, okay, well, why not? I have that freedom to say that. You can't cancel me. You can't, tamp down my, right to say what I want to say. If I want to say this, spread this misinformation or whatever, then I have that right to,
But the problem is that you.
But the problem is what you're saying is that you had the other side has that same right too. They have that same right to come back at you and go back and forth, and here you got this push and pull between everyone who thinks they have this platform and the freedom to speak, and everybody is just talking into like a funnel, a noise vacuum or whatever. We're not really hearing each other. They're just talking just to talk and stuff. So everybody has his freedom, but nobody's realizing the other side has that same freedom that they have.
Yeah. I mean, if you have the freedom of speech, you definitely have the freedom to tell someone to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, right? Yeah. So I feel like
one more thing, unless the government, which is what freedom of speech is, unless the government is coming to your door, taking you to jail based on what you said, your God-given right to actually speak, then that's when your freedom of speech and freedom of self is being taken. That's freedom of speech, being taken away from you, but nobody is coming to anybody's door taking their free will away from them.
You can't do it.
You can't do that.
You can't remove it from the situation, right? Which is what Homelander wants to do.
Right.
And I think if you say, if you say something like, the presidential election was legit. Okay. Let's say you say that as a statement. Mm-hmm. And I have lots of evidence stating that that's the case, right? I have evidence I can appeal to. Mm-hmm. And someone else comes in and says the presidential election was not legit and has no evidence whatsoever, right?
Right.
The only recourse I have to that is to speak the truth into the same area. Because, unless you're saying you have the ability to declare reality unilaterally and define reality for everybody, right? You're really backed into a corner there. And because you don't allow other people to have that right to tell you what is the truth unilaterally, you have to agree upon an agreed set of evidentiary facts. So
keep lying and lying and lying and lying and lying until people start believing. And
maybe they don't, but that's the risk, right? And this is what's great about this show. So there's so many angles, because now I'm thinking about how A-Train is doing all of those things but for these hollow reasons.
Right. So
I think the freedom of speech is not freedom from consequence. And I think that anybody that tells you that you're not allowed to have a reaction to something they said is looking to control a lot more than just the conversation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we could go on and on about like and like I said, that's a great thing about this show, because it could bring up so many different aspects of like real world politics. And I think they are doing a lot of that in this particular show. But they're layering it on instead of actually preaching to us, which we don't really want. We want to be entertained. We are consumers. We spend our money to entertain, to be entertained and everything when we do spend our money. So when we watch these shows or watch this particular show and everything, we are expecting the blood. We're expecting some craziness, ridiculousness, outrageousness and stuff. If you want to layer on like some stuff, from real life, that's fine and everything. Don't overwhelm us with it. But I think they're doing it to such a degree, such a creative degree that we can actually have this conversation, to really, expand on some of the themes and some of the subjects that they talk about in the show.
And I think the parallel is very interesting. Like we were talking about how the Juneteenth stuff, like there's a wrong way to do this celebration that we all kind of can feel, but it's hard to define, right? It's about it's about, are you genuine?
Right.
So like, are you only, are you like how A-Train is only supportive of the Black community one day a year? Like you can't be a like a what do they call that? Like a holiday Christian, like someone that goes, they say Easter and Christmas, right? Someone that goes to church Easter and Christmas. You can't do that because doing that is, disingenuous is the word I've been looking for. Damn, took so long for my brain to find that.
It didn't take too long for people to start marketing like the whole Juneteenth thing. I've seen like Walmart ads for like, particular, Juneteenth with like the red, black and green, colors and stuff on a product and stuff. So it didn't take long for people to start marketing. I mean, doing that. But what do you expect? We've been marketing holidays since they became. We market Memorial Day, like furniture sales and stuff. We do car sales and stuff. As soon as like Christmas comes, oh man, that's a whole big old thing. What do you expect us to do as a capitalist country whenever there's a holiday coming up? We gotta cater to it. That's just what we do.
As someone that likes a good deal, I think that it, an excuse to give me a price break is totally cool. And I think that if that's really what we're talking about, do we really want to change how we celebrate things in this country so much? But I think you're absolutely right. If you're using this imagery as a tool, as opposed to actually looking to, genuinely celebrate the change, like I think that's something where you can fall into that trap. And Vought has no intention of not falling into that trap, which is why it's so great, because they use that language, but they use it in such a way that lets you understand how it can sound if you're not careful. It's a really illustrative of that pitfall.
They make the correlation and basically reflect using the Vought as like, okay, they're the ultimate corporation, and making you think about how corporations in real life, perpetrate, their sense of, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're, celebrating, this is how we're gonna, how we're gonna capitalize off the celebration or what have you. It's the American way, whether you like it or not. That's totally up to you to decide, because that's American, as well. Your benefit of that free will to decide whether you're gonna, like something or not. Just as long as, like I said, the government's not coming to your home, telling you what to say and what not to say, and taking you, to jail for that. We're not Russia. We're not like communist countries. We're not like China or anything like that. At least not yet. Anyway, but but we have the fortune of living in a country where we still have that free will to go about and go outside and smell like the roses and stuff. Vought is, to a degree, that giant corporation that's they just have this total control over, and it'll be really interesting to see how, and I think we actually did to a degree with Mother's Milk's, Marvin's wife's, his ex-wife's boyfriend, when he saw Homelander's giving that speech and everything, we see him like, rise and everything, and take towards that and stuff. So when we're seeing like how people are reacting to the bullshit that they're being fed by Vought, and regurgitated, it's a crazy thing to see, and we're just seeing like little elements. It'd be really interesting to see how people are reacting to Vault in real life.
I like the idea that there would be a lot of people there, all these fanboys. You see these fanboys everywhere. But VOD is in addition to the many other allegorical parallels, it's a parallel to Disney, obviously. Right. Obviously, which is ironic. Amazon is not any smaller.
Right? That's the hilarious part about it. They're like the biggest.
Yeah, it's like if Disney was run by by absolute demons, right? Like actual people on the payroll of Lucifer, which it's certainly not. It's not at all.
How would Mickey sound?
Mickey would say, I'm gonna skin you alive, and then I'm gonna boil your blood. No, we can't do that on this show. Sorry, everybody. So, but it's interesting. Like, what if Disney actually had a bunch of Jedi they could just throw at you?
A bunch of Jedi. Right? Oh, my goodness.
And what they did is they did a boy band of Jedi. Like they didn't even try. Like Vought never even tried one time to do anything altruistic. But here's the thing. I was thinking about Star Wars and Marvel Comics and that stuff, and how I'm so glad that that's all it ever is. It's just entertainment and stuff. Yeah. I don't want it trying to be a religion. I don't want it trying to be a philosophy. I want it to be something created by, in the specifics of Star Wars, George Lucas in 1974, and then filmed and put on TV. Nobody's doubting that. No one's going to come here and tell me that, Darth Vader died to bring back a lot of dead people. Like that. No one's going to come and tell me that. It's not going to happen in 150 years because we know it's George Lucas and it's written down and it's on TV. Anyway, if you like Star Wars, what you should do is watch Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus and then come to Carbonite Bounty BS, which is a podcast hosted on this channel, Nerd Cyclopedia, by you, DP Brown, me, Steel City Hitch, and we are joined by our showrunner, T. Mitch, and Ken, who likes everything. We have a really great, I love Ken. We have a great time over there. We talk about the stuff on Disney Plus, which is where most of the media has been for Star Wars lately due to the pandemic and for convenience sake for me. Super excited to see all of you guys over there. So if you like the boys,
if you like
Kenobi's very different. You like these boys.
If you like us, we're the boys. We're your boys, So if you like us and we're presenting something different from what you usually see on like other channels and everything, make sure that you are subscribing to our channel, sharing our channel, basically sharing all our our social media and everything, so you can let other friends know. We try to be as passionate as and as genuine as we can about the stuff that we talk about. And we know a lot of people talk about it, but we appreciate you coming to listen to us to talk about the thing that you love.
There's nobody else that talked about Ayn Rand on this episode. There's nobody else that talked about that. There's nobody else that talks about money doesn't stink. There's nobody else that talks about Machiavelli. There's nobody else that does this stuff. We're unique. We know we're unique. That's why we're here. You should listen to us. You should tell people that aren't listening to us to listen to us. And then if they tell you they won't, you should hurt them.
Yep.
with words. Unkind words. That's all we're saying. Nah, don't bully anybody. But you should check out our other show on the channel. Yeah. DP, we're 4 episodes deep into this season. It seems like the real conflict setting up. The Boys is the sort of show where I'd have no idea how far they're going to get next episode. You could tell me any character on this roster is dead at the end of the next episode, and I believe it, including Homelander. That's how you know they're really, really cooking. Before we go,
I like the fact that I don't know where we're headed with this. So, it's like you get a surprise. It's like open up a present. You get a surprise every week. Every time Thursday comes, Friday, these episodes come. You don't know what to expect. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And like we said, we have because anybody can just be splattered in 5 seconds.
Pretty much.
And they can just be turned into puree. All right. Well, that's all we have for this week. So I hope you like the show. Boys Season 3, Episode 4. We're going to be back next week for Episode 5. We'll be back on Wednesday for Kenobi Episode 5. Be back again with this one. And we'll be back on the same nerd time, same nerd channel. Goodbye.
Peace out.